As promised, here's Pep the Dog. As I mentioned, in 1914, solitary confinement had its, or rather, mandatory total solitary confinement had its final death knell. But it had really been dead for quite some time. By 1877, so 40 years after the full opening of this place, the prison had a ratio of 1.5 prisoners to 1 cell. So that meant about 2/3 of the prison would have had a cellmate. Once they built cell blocks 8 and 9, they made that ratio 1 to 1 again, but notably they didn't add exercise yards to those cell blocks. Now maybe this was simply a cost-saving measure. After all, the prison, it cost $800,000 to build, an exorbitant cost by those days' standards, and the prison is constantly being harangued by Congress for its inability to sort of make back that initial investment, as well as the continuing operating costs of the prison. But at that point, people had sort of given up, at least on this ideal of complete isolation that the prison had been built upon. And, you know, prisoners' mental health, general health within the prison, these other issues had certainly, and also the lack of financial efficiency of solitary confinement, these issues all contributed to its death, but the biggest one was just overpopulation leading to its lack of ability to maintain it. So 10 years after that, 1924, Pep the dog, the governor's dog, the governor says Pep has killed the cat of his wife. So he gets a year-long sentence. Who here thinks Pep is innocent? Who here thinks he's guilty? Well, the innocents will have it today, because Pep, after the governor's wife had received all of these very nasty messages about, you know, how Pep was this evil, barbaric animal who ought to be slaughtered, she felt like this had all gone too far and revealed that Pep was merely a publicity stunt. And there were a lot of, well, he was covered a lot in the papers. In 1925, there was a radio broadcast over Christmas where he was reported to have given a few yelps and a bark over the radio. But the reason for this was because the prison had had maybe the most damaging scandal in its history a year before in 1923. One prisoner reported that there were enough drugs in here to keep a city going. Heroin was so universal and so frequently pushed onto the prisoners that one prisoner from the country is reported to have had it pushed upon him on the idea that it would make him a better pitcher for the baseball team. One prisoner was able to set up a sting with a high-ranking official who saw a drug deal go down between a guard and a prisoner. Prisoner didn't hear anything back for a while, and the guard said, "You didn't see anything like that. You don't see anything like that again." The warden employed many of his own sons and family members as guards in a prison, and all of these reports of heroin addiction within the prison, he responded to by saying the entire prison were talc powder fiends. The prison was described as an outpost of hell in the newspapers, and this whole scandal was so bad that the governor felt like he needed to put a dog in here to distract from it. So Pep, as far as I know, lived out the rest of his life here and had a decent time. They didn't keep him in a cell. He was reportedly a friend to the prisoners and the guards and had a lot of space to run around and had a decent life here. So that's why we still honor him and celebrate him today in our gift shop. Any questions about Pep before we wrap up?
He sells a lot of merchandise.
Yeah. Pep is a big...
He was the inspiration for support animals today.